Hi, I'm Connor from Red Hot Sports, and who was the biggest loser in free agency this year? I already know which team I think was over by quite a bit. It was not close who the biggest loser of free agency was. But I'm going to talk about a couple other teams that also lost big in free agency that I have a lot of questions about. The team that I think lost in free agency the most, I don't have a question about. I know why they lost, and I know that they lost big time. But it's one team that lost big was Chicago. Chicago lost a lot of really good players. And not only that, but they lost them and did not replace them. They could not. Losing a player does not immediately mean you lost in free agency if you replace them. Patriots lose players, they replaced them. I mean, I'm not trying to be biased, but I'm being real here. Chicago couldn't do that. Chicago had a lot of money, but they also have a bunch of young players that they got to pay here. They have so many people on their team that are about to get big contracts, and I talked about that in the Seattle video. They have so much money tied up that they're not going to be able to just go out and spend. So they lost big time. And losing your all-star fucking center, that is brutal. And prime center. And losing him, that is brutal. But it's a good line draft. I think they'll be fine. Another team that lost big was the Dolphins. But I don't really think the Dolphins were losers in the sense of they're losing this offseason. I think they're doing everything right. You need a reset. You got to reset. Your team was at its peak, and the peak wasn't high enough for them to actually win. So you have to reset. And you have a bunch of contracts bogging you down. And you got a bunch of people on your team that are about to cost you more money. Jalen Waddle, big contract. Tyreek, big contract. Tua, big contract. Only thing that makes me think that they were a loser in free agency, and I'm going to say it, and this is my honest opinion, I don't like the Malik Willis signing. I don't think Malik Willis deserves a starting job. Now, he can go out and absolutely tear the league up next year, and I will fully accept that I was wrong. I'm not on the Malik Willis bandwagon. I don't think that he's going to be that great in Miami. Even if he had Jalen Waddle, Tyreek, and the greatest O-line of all time, I really don't think that Malik's that great, per se. Maybe I'm in the wrong there. I could be in the minority, but I just am not the biggest believer, to say the least. But who was the biggest loser? The Baltimore Ravens. And I'm so confused because right now the post-free agency power rankings are coming out right now from a bunch of sports media, and they're putting this fucking team in the top 10. In what fucking universe did the Ravens improve? They lost their entire interior O-line, signed one guy coming off a season-ending injury that could suck. I like Trey, but he might not recover from that injury well. You know what I mean? It's been nonsense with this guy for 3 years. Do we really want to pay him $25-30 million? And they did. Hey, but the biggest damage they did was to their organization. You go out, you give up picks, a lot, 2 big picks for Max Crosby. You give up 2 firsts for Max Crosby. He comes to your building. You don't even greet the damn guy. He barely meets the coach. Never met the guy who actually made the fucking trade happen. And then he goes, and then you go, well, you know what, cold feet, I'm out. I'm done. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the trade. You just killed every ounce of credibility that you had. And if I'm a player in the NFL and I just saw what they did to Max Crosby, I'm telling my manager, do not let me get traded to Baltimore. Do not let. I don't care. I love Lamar. I'm a big Lamar fan, and I think that even though he hasn't gotten over the hump yet, I think that has more to do with the team that he's on and not him. I think Lamar is fantastic. I'd love to play with Lamar if I was a player. But your organization just went from one of the most highly regarded and respected franchises in the NFL. Despite your lack of winning as of late in the playoffs, you were still highly regarded and respected. And you tanked it. You took all of that credibility, threw it in the fucking bin. Nobody respects you now. Congratulations. And Max Crosby's loved around the league. players love Max Crosby. He is respected. People like him. People want to work with him. People want to play around him. And that guy just trashed your franchise. He just trashed your franchise. And he trashed your franchise so bad, he is now actively making the Raiders, which has been consistently one of the worst ran franchises in the NFL, look great, look like paradise. And we'll get to this in the next video. The Raiders had a great offseason. And honestly, if I'm Las Vegas, this was best case scenario, you guys sending the trade back. Because now Max is like, you know what? Maybe I didn't know what I had. I'm ready to be a Raider again. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And him lined up with Kwity Paye, who I like a lot. Kwity Paye is going to get you some sacks. All right? And obviously, Max Crosby is one of the best guys in the league in general. They had a great offseason. And Baltimore, you have now made a terrible franchise look like paradise. Paradise compared to you. There's something, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand in life. Respect for who you are goes a long way. You hear all these people talk about the respect who I am as a person, what I believe, this, fuck that. Respect in the real world is you walk into the room and people understand that they should not mess around with you and your credibility. They respect your honesty. They respect your credibility. If you say something, they genuinely listen. That is the respect. If you didn't like me because I'm a ginger, but you tell me that, you know what, I respect your word though, we're cool. And that goes a lot further than any other sort of respect. The respect of my word, my credibility, and my thought. The Ravens lost all of that right now. And I saw an analogy and it went kind of viral about the whole Ravens situation with Max Crosby. If someone in your fantasy football league did what just happened, they'd be kicked from the league. And if they weren't kicked from the league, they would never be traded with ever again. They would. I wouldn't trade with you. You know what I mean? You just traded 2 first-round picks for, and look, I think Max Crosby is going to come back and rock the year. I think he's going to be a great player. But you knew his injury concern. You knew he played on an injury that he shouldn't have. You knew the circumstances, and you gave up those 2 picks. And after a week, when everybody goes, you know, that wasn't really a good trade for you, you go, fail the physical, get him out. Get him out. Of course he's going to fail that physical. Of course he's going to fail that physical. You don't give someone a physical at that point of recovery. Obviously, he's going to fail the physical. Obviously, he's not in peak condition yet. Yeah, you knew the guy might not make it a fucking training camp yet. He might not. He might not make it until halfway through training camp. But it's Max Crosby, and he's going to be a great player when he does come back. But not for the Ravens. I think the Ravens were the biggest losers of the offseason. And also, I like Trey Hendrickson, but I don't know if he's actually going to make that big of a difference on the Ravens D-line. Because they lost their edge, Draymond Jones, to the Patriots. And I know, Draymond Jones is not like a massive name. 7.5 sacks, lots of tackles for loss, played a great season last year. I think he would have got a lot of value on the Ravens if he was still there with Trey Hendrickson. But now I don't think that that's actually going to unfold. I don't know if Trey Hendrickson has a great year now in Baltimore. And you have all this money that you got to pay to these guys. I think Baltimore in 3 years might be one of the bottom feeders of the league for a couple of years. Because I just don't think that Lamar is going to be able to take that franchise in the situation that they're going to be in to a winning season. I love Lamar and I think he's fantastic, but I think that there's a limit to where we're at and how much he can do. So Ravens were by far the biggest losers. We'll talk a little more about every team closer to the season. We're going to have a designated video talking about your goal out in the season, your off-season, what happened, kind of break down and see where you can be. And where we would like to see you and what I expect of you. We'll do that for one of every team. It's going to take a while, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to do it. Next, probably in a couple of days, I'm going to film the winners of the offseason, which is way more interesting because honestly, I think there was a lot of winners. If you look at this year's free agency, I think a lot of teams improved, you know? And I know that might sound redundant because it seems like, oh, every team improves in free agency except for the guys who are resetting or weird circumstances, right? No. No, like just not true at all. No. Most of the time, teams make dumb moves, overpay, and get a bunch of nonsense on their books that they don't need. And I didn't see as much of that this year as I expected in this free agency because in the all grand scheme of this, the free agency class wasn't like that loaded. It was a lot of good players, but it wasn't a lot of superstar talent where you're like, I need to give up an arm and a leg for this guy. And I expected people to go out and give up arm and a leg guys or arm and a leg for guys who are good, not great. We didn't see that. So look forward to that video. And yeah, thank you for watching and like and subscribe and talk shit to me in the comments. All right. And if you disagree or you're a Ravens fan, my bad, bro. Sorry, bro.